Welcome back to the Right Ingredients podcast. I'm Charlie Packwood, Managing Director of Aston Chambers, where we specialise exclusively in recruitment across the global specialty ingredients industry. Today, we're talking about something that quietly shapes a huge number of senior careers in flavour creation and the wider specialty ingredients industry: relocation. In our world, it's common to hear, are you open to a move? Are you open to relocation? And it sounds simple. Most times, it isn't. Relocation can accelerate careers, expand technical exposure, and open leadership pathways. But it also pushes people outside their comfort zones, culturally and professionally. To unpack this properly, I'm joined by someone who has done it multiple times. Willy Hajovic is currently Principal Flavourist at IFF based in Dubai. Over a career spanning more than 2 decades, he has progressed from trainee through to principal level, working across Europe, Southeast Asia, and now the Middle East, within major global flavour houses. Willy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Now, before we get into the topic of relocation itself, give people a quick sense of your background and experience. Tell us about your career to date and the countries that you've worked in.
So, as you can hear, I'm French. So I did my studies in France. Did a master degree at ISIPCA, which is still quite relevant in the world of fragrances and flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And my first job was in the UK. I started in BBA, in a company which doesn't exist anymore. Later became IFF. I moved to the Netherlands for around 10 years, then moved back to France. And then I had an opportunity to go and work in Asia, so Southeast Asia. I started in Jakarta, Indonesia for a few years, and then moved to Singapore. And finally, after my time in Asia, I just took an opportunity to come to Dubai, so Middle East, as a principal.
Great. Well, as you've highlighted there, you've relocated several times across multiple different continents. What originally pushed you to take that first international opportunity?
Well, actually, it was not a real decision from my side. I always wanted to work or have an experience abroad, but at the time, I absolutely wanted to be a flavorist, and the opportunities were definitely not in France. So just looked around and sent a lot of letters at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and applying for jobs, and found the one in the UK, in London. That's how my first relocation started, and
Mm-hmm.
why I relocated.
Okay. Out of curiosity there, you mentioned that there didn't seem to be a lot of opportunities within flavour creation in France. Now, obviously, Grasse, that sort of area, the heritage home of flavours and fragrances, with a lot of flavour and fragrance houses based down there. Were you not able to secure a role in France with some of those businesses?
Well, it was some time ago, so the companies in the south were not as big as they are now,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't really include any training for flavorists at that time.
Right,
And
okay.
the only few companies which were doing it were the bigger companies, and they were all located.
Interesting. Okay. From what I've heard from people that I have spoken to that have relocated multiple times, the first move is often the hardest psychologically. So when you've made those moves throughout your career, what has relocation actually meant in practical terms?
In practical terms, it's very simple. It always looks very exciting from when you think about it, but practically, you just with your 2-3 suitcases and end up
Mm-hmm.
in a country which is not yours. And yeah, it can be tough the first time, and then of course you get used to it and you know how to handle it better with time.
Mm-hmm.
But practically, yeah, that's it. You're just by yourself most of the time with your suitcases, and you need to sort out all kind of things just to settle down.
For sure. And let's talk about more of the technical impacts from your perspective, obviously, as a savoury flavourist. How different is working in Europe compared to places like Southeast Asia or now the Middle East?
From a technical point of view, I believe, but again, I think we have different kind of thinking there. I believe the differences are not huge in terms of the standard flavors. Chicken is still a chicken. People would argue about it, but I still believe that we have the same type of food. basic
Hmm.
food. What changes is the culture behind it, how you would prepare the food, how you would associate it with different herbs and spices, how you would cook it, and what's a bit more profound, how the people relate to this food, what is their comfort food, what reminds them of their childhood.
Hmm.
So this is the part where you need to understand when you arrive in a new country as a flavorist, more than
Interesting.
the base.
Interesting, because especially within flavor creation, I hear a lot of flavorists that are open to relocation because they feel if, for example, if they're based in Europe, going to places like Southeast Asia, they will expand their taste palette for a variety of different flavors that are more commonly used in Southeast Asia than they are in Europe. Do you feel that is the case?
Yeah, it is definitely the case. It's you would discover a whole new palette of things which are combined. So you have the basics. I'm talking about chicken here
Yeah, yeah.
again, but then all the herbs and spices that you would not be used to, because I mean you don't use the same herbs in Europe that you would use in Asia. So there is a whole palette of fruits and herbs and things that you would discover, and trying to understand the associations between those, and how do they use it. So yes, it's a whole new learning phase. Some of the ingredients you are familiar with, but in very different environments, and others are just common to, also similar to what you would be used to.
Okay, okay. And relocation and progression often go hand in hand. If people want to expand their career, there's maybe not opportunities available in their current living country, but there might be more progressive opportunities in other global locations. Do you think mobility is linked to progression in large flavor and ingredient manufacturers?
Well, not necessarily, but yes, it does help. And while we were just talking about learning and the new learnings and a
Hmm.
new association, for me, it's not the fact that you're moving. It's the fact that you are adapting to new cultures, adapting to new environments, learning about new things. So yeah, the progression comes more from all those soft skills that you acquire when you're moving,
Hmm.
more than just the fact of moving. So it's not necessarily linked, but you do learn a lot of new skills that will help you to progress in your career.
Okay. Okay. And credibility is another layer, as you mentioned, moving to a different region, taking on different teams if you're in a management style position. But when you arrive in a new region, how do you build credibility with both the internal teams that potentially you're managing or working with and customers as well?
Well, my view on that is that you have to stay very, very humble. You're not moving to conquer a new territory. You
Hmm.
have to understand first how things are done, how people are behaving, how do they think. So for me, you have to be very humble. You have to learn first before you're trying to teach others.
Hmm.
And with time, once you gain more confidence with the people, when they trust you, then yes, you can start teaching if there is anything to teach. You're
Yep.
not necessarily here to teach them anything. It's just that you can share more once they trust you, when they know that you know what you're talking about.
Hmm.
Listening is a very important part in the first times in a new country or a new culture. You have to adapt and understand.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, customers in a variety of different locations are going to have different needs, different requirements, different supply chain constraints. All of these things, I'm sure, come into factor there, as well as the internal teams that you're almost the outsider that's coming in to sort of add
Definitely.
value at one point, but also learn at the same time.
Yeah. You have to understand your customers are the same. You have to understand what they mean, what they
Hmm.
need, how they work in general. Yeah.
What about surprises? And what I mean by that, looking back at your moves, what surprised you the most about relocating, both professionally and personally?
I think the biggest surprise was that you have a kind of idea, or I mean, nowadays you look on the internet and you have some expectations about a place, and you find out can be totally different from what you expect. So the surprise is more on that side. I've been to a few countries where some of them you would think that I could never fit there because the culture is so different.
Hmm.
And suddenly you are welcomed and you feel at home. And
Hmm.
there is countries where you think, oh, it's very international. It's going to be very easy to settle, and you're just the outsider, and you will never belong.
Hmm.
So those are mainly the surprises I think I had.
Where did you find that the most, out of curiosity? Or do you want to keep that one to yourself?
No, no, I mean, I'm okay. I mean, my latest experience was Singapore, and I did Singapore to be very international, very
Hmm.
open to, and maybe I was not in the right environment, but it felt pretty much closed and not so welcoming and open
That's fair.
as I
That's
would
fair.
think.
Okay. Well, let's now move to make this a little bit more practical for listeners. For let's focus on flavor creation. So for flavorists who are offered relocation today, what are the non-negotiables that you think that they should clarify before jumping in and saying yes to relocation?
Well, I think they really have to first really understand the scope of the role and what they are expected to do.
Hmm.
So that's the first, and sometimes we don't think too much about all the practical things because all about the excitement and the new opportunities, but there is a lot there about the practical things. You come as a foreigner, everything will be new. I mean, most of the time, depending where you, everything will be new. So you really have to, yeah, to make sure that you understand what you're stepping into.
I think that's good advice, good sound advice there. And broadening beyond the individual moves. Now, you yourself, you relocated independently, but many flavorists moved with their partners or families, kids, etc. From what you've
Mhm.
seen in the industry, how much more complex does relocation become when family is involved?
Well, of course, it's gonna be more complex because you don't have only to think about yourself, but the family, your
Hmm.
partner, whether she or he will have a job, your kids, a school. But overall, everyone I met, all foreigners and expats I met abroad,
Hmm.
they are truly enjoying their time because you come to a new country, the kids adapt like, in no time. They have friends, they speak the language, they're very easy for them to settle.
Hmm.
And most of the time, the difficulty is not to come to a new country. And I saw that the difficulty is going back if they ever have to, because then their life is so enjoyable. You do live a good life most of the time as an expat. And the
Yep.
experience it brings that going back is sometimes the hardest part. That's what I could see around myself.
Especially if you're bringing family with you as well, you're sort of integrating into that. You're sort of committing to this is where we are now going to be based. Your point
Yeah, this
there
is
about,
home.
yeah, about then relocating away from that country is it seems, I mean, you yourself, you haven't had short tenures in the countries that you've been based, but they haven't sort of been 10-year plus in any country per se. For example, you didn't spend 10 years in Singapore. I don't know, maybe you will spend 10 years in Dubai, who knows? But when I see people that are relocating with their families, those 10 years that the countries that they relocate to seem to be a lot longer because, as we have highlighted there, you're really integrating your entire family and committing to this full relocation.
Yeah, and I think the you bring your kids, for example, and usually they are a bit young,
Hmm.
and then they start to grow up and have their life in this country. So going away from that place is leaving home and leaving everything behind. So it's more difficult when you are with a family and you build something in a place
Hmm.
to then move. Most of the time, I even saw people who would never move because they are so comfortable and their life is now abroad.
Now, of course, support structures matter when you're making a relocation. And in your experience working for large multinational flavor houses, how well do companies really support relocation, both during the relocation process and post relocation?
I think things have changed a lot because relocation became something a bit more common
Hmm.
within the large companies. So they are now very pretty much well structured and they know what to expect. They can tell you in advance what's going to be what are going to be the pain points and where you're going to need more help. So right now, I would say the large ones, at least, they are pretty much used to it, and they do offer good support. In general, you know what you're stepping into, and they know what you're gonna need to set.
Okay. I've worked with some obviously I've supported a lot of relocations throughout my recruitment career for a variety of different companies. Some that I have worked with, all well-known names. Some have been fantastic at their relocation support in terms of really integrating with, especially if it's a family, integrating with the family, understanding the dynamics, what's going to be needed for the partner, for the kids, to be able to really sort of support the full relocation, not just on a professional side, but on a personal side. Because realistically, if the person who's joining your company is happy in their personal life, they're probably going to be happy in their professional life, and they're probably going to perform in their professional life. I mean, there's companies I've worked with that do almost a post relocation, a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, 12-month check-in, just to make sure that everything is still going smoothly, to make sure that the person is happy, that there isn't any issues. And if there are issues, the company can then step in and support. And on the flip side of that, there's also companies I've worked with that when it comes to relocation, they almost treat people like commodities, where there's not a lot of support. It's, well, do you want to relocate or not?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're absolutely right. It's either they support you well, and as you say, it's very important that you feel comfortable and happy where you are, because that's gonna define how you behave at work. Most of the time, where I think it went a bit less right is when it's only the local HR teams which are supporting relocation,
Yeah,
and
I
somehow
see that.
they do not understand completely what it takes as an expat to be in a new country. So
hmm
what seems normal to them because they live there, because they are from this country, is not usually in line with what an expat would need.
So you would say advice there to anybody that listening that does work within a specialty ingredients producer within sort of HR, that it would be more beneficial for global HR teams or regional HR teams to step in rather than local.
Definitely, yes, definitely.
Great. Okay. Okay. Now, culture is often underestimated, really sort of understanding culture, especially moving intercontinentally like you have. From a leadership perspective, what changes when you relocate into a team that you didn't grow up in culturally?
Well, it can go both ways. Either your reputation does the job, and people welcome you, and they are welcoming this new knowledge, and they
hmm
are eager to learn, or they are very much closed because they have been used to work the same way all their life, and suddenly you're coming, and they think that the first thing you're gonna try to do is to change all this. I
hmm
think it's not the purpose. So again, we're coming back to being humble, trying to listen, and not going there to just spread your knowledge, which might be useful or not. So first try to understand, and when the time is right, then you can start to first to learn, and then hopefully to teach something which is useful. Bring your personal touch.
Okay. What's been a moment in your career where relocation has really tested you professionally?
Well, many times, of course, it's always challenging you, and that's
hmm
the nice part, because you always learn from it. I think that the cultural part is probably the most complicated one.
hmm
Once you need to understand from a professional point of view, it's about learning what people mean when they are talking about special ingredients. I mean, as a flavor.
hmm
Um, for example, in Vietnam, they would challenge me, well, the beef, you don't know the taste of the Vietnamese beef. What would be different between a beef in Vietnam and anywhere else, you know? So you try to understand. It's very cultural. It's coming from their youth. It's coming from their background. And you need to try to understand, okay, what makes it local? You know,
hmm
what do they mean when they are talking about that? So yeah, it's about listening, about learning, about going out there on the markets, on the street, trying to taste and understand what do they mean? What is it?
Think it's coming back to what you said pretty much at the start of this is being humble and listening. wanting to learn, wanting to understand.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't. I saw some people making the mistake going abroad as managers, and so they think, okay, I'm managing, so I'm going to tell them what to do. But no,
Hmm.
don't forget, you are in their countries. They know better than you about the country, the culture, the food,
Hmm.
everything. So I prefer to stay humble and learn
Hmm.
than go there and thinking, okay, I'm going to teach them everything. Because again, you might have some perception that some countries are one way and thinking that you know better, but no, it's never the case.
Yeah. Okay. And people that are probably listening to this podcast, maybe those that are considering relocation or people that have potentially got offers on the table which would require a relocation. So for those listening, how do you know when relocation is the right career move versus the wrong one? Are there any red flags or green flags that you would highlight?
Well, I think you have to do it for yourself. You need to have this kind of calling for relocating.
Hmm.
You think you feel that it's the right step for you. So the red flag is being your company suddenly a flavorist is going away, retiring in a different country. They tell you, hey, you need to go there because yeah, it's the right move. No, it's the right move for the company. Is it the
Hmm.
right move for you? So the red flags are, yeah, you really have to be sure about it. You really have to know what you step into. But at the end of the day, it's a wonderful learning. It's a wonderful step. And I mean, for me personally, I love those challenges, and I love discovering new cultures, new way of working. And but yeah, it has to be a very thoughtful process. You have to see what's in it for you, what's
Hmm.
in it for the company, of course, but mostly, is it okay for me? Is it the right time in my life to take this step? So
Hmm.
the red flags is yeah, just think for yourself first and see if that fits for you. And that being said, I relocation is not a must. Some people do a very good career in staying in the same company, specializing in one country or in one expertise. And
Hmm.
that's also okay. So it's all about deepening your knowledge, being very specialized in one thing, or this is your added value.
Hmm. And you've been pretty much within the savory category of flavor creation throughout your career. If so, out of this is sort of a little bit left of relocation, but if an opportunity came up where it expanded your experience within another category, sweet, beverage, those sort of areas, but it also required relocation, is that something that is worth considering as well? I mean, a lot of flavorists will specialize in a certain category and application area, but what I'm seeing across the industry at the moment within flavor creation is the growing attractiveness of cross-category creation knowledge, being not an expert in everything, but an understanding of creating flavors in different categories. Would you say that that's also worth considering, or is that too much of a risk?
No, it's definitely worth considering. I think it's a wonderful way of learning and learning new things and mastering new other things. But nowadays, I would say this doesn't happen much in the large companies. Large
Yeah.
companies very specialized, sweet, savory, even more savory in culinary and snacks. It tends to happen more in the smaller companies where you have to, especially as a manager, sometimes you have to handle both sweet and savory, and it's a wonderful learning. It's nice. You get to see a lot of different products, a lot of different customers. So yeah, I think it's worth considering. I had the opportunity. It didn't happen, but I think that would have been as well a nice move, just to step out of your comfort zone and learn
Hmm.
new things.
Of course. And what about sort of the hiring managers listening, people that are supporting or asking people to relocate? What responsibility do they have, or what responsibilities do they carry when asking somebody to relocate? How can they best support individuals?
I think the I would say the responsibility is simply to understand that when you ask someone to move, it's not just a simple move. You're taking them out of their country, out of their social circle, and they will have to rebuild absolutely everything.
Hmm.
So it's not just an easy move. We take a flight ticket and you go there. It's all about understanding that you're asking from the people to change radically their life. So
Hmm.
yeah, you need the support. You need to understand that first, and then to support as much as you can, taking that into account.
Yeah, some good advice there. And let's go a little bit, look at it sort of your perspective here. If you could go back and advise your younger self before your first ever relocation, what do you think you would tell him?
A good one. What would I tell myself? I would tell myself not to worry too much. To go with the flow. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything turns out okay at the end of the day. It's you worry at first, but yeah, eventually you adapt. We are very good. The human race is very good at just adapting to new environments, learning new things.
Hmm.
Trust the journey and enjoy the ride.
Some great advice there. And I know you've only been in Dubai for 6 months, but is there anywhere else where you see yourself being based?
No, I don't want to think about it. No, it goes wonderfully well right now. So I'm very happy. It's the kind of place where you come and you think, yeah, that could be home. And that's a very good feeling. That's what you want when you are relocating. Is
For
this
sure.
kind of feeling where you feel, okay, this is it.
Good. Well, Willie, thank you. This has been, I think, a really
Absolutely.
grounded and honest conversation on the topic of relocation. And if we're being honest, relocation isn't just a line on a CV. It shapes technical capability, cultural intelligence, and leadership maturity. All of these things can grow and support your development within your career. I think for flavorists, it can be the move that really defines your career. And for hiring managers, it's not a small ask, it's a life decision and something that everybody should bear in mind when requesting somebody to relocate for a role. So if you're listening and you're weighing up an international move or considering asking someone to make one, this episode should give you a more realistic lens. Thank you for your time once again, Willie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Charlie.
And thank you to all those listening to the Right Ingredients podcast. I'm Charlie Packwood, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.